When I hid to see why my granddaughter cried, I revealed an incredible secret about her father. Helen's heart raced as she noticed the slight slivers of daylight spilling out from the crack of her granddaughter Lily's bedroom door. The muffled sobs that escaped sent shivers down her spine, igniting a fierce determination to understand the pain behind those tears. As a retired teacher, she prided herself on nurturing hope and healing through love. Yet here she was, feeling utterly helpless. When had her once-spirited granddaughter decided to retreat into sorrow? Just moments earlier, they had shared a joy-filled afternoon. And now the world seemed grim. Was this grief born from the fissures in their family? Jake, her son, had been struggling under the weight of single parenthood ever since his divorce. Ever since news of the separation broke, the cracks in their family seemed to deepen. Hearing Lily recount those memories in whispers, her healing laughter now extinguished, stirred a mixture of protectiveness and anger inside Helen. Thoughts spiraled through her mind. The fear of her son failing, or worse, of losing Lily to sadness, consumed her. What anguish lay beneath those innocent tears? A mother's heart hurt. A grandmother's instincts kicked in. Before Helen could stave off the wave of dread, she felt the impulse to confront Jake. Yet, how could she approach him without straying into territory of judgment? She wrestled with the possibility. Would he see her disappointment? Or would he feel her unconditional love? The tempo of her heartbeat quickened as she fantasized about how the conversation would go. Two adults navigating through a storm of emotions, one lost in sorrow, the other fraying at the edges of despair. Furthermore, would her gentle approach even hold any weight? What if it pushed him further away? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Hours stretched into eternity as Helen steeled herself for their conversation. When night fell, she approached the worn brown leather couch where Jake rested, lines etched deep in his brow, the glow of the lamp illuminating the emptiness in his eyes. During their talk, she learned of a buried gift. His writing, once a source of delight, his talent lay dormant beneath a facade of obligation and guilt. As she watched shame cross his face, realization hit her like a thunderstorm. His dreams had been suffocated under the necessity to survive. Could she somehow ignite that spark within him? Desperation filled her heart as she committed to this new role of mentor, knowing that Jake's rediscovery would not just revive his spirit, but might also heal the fractures in their family. And with each shared story, as laughter weaved through their words, hope flickered like a candle. But beneath the surface brewed a storm, secrets lingering, threatening to upend their fragile progress. Just as they teetered on the brink of breakthroughs, whispers of the past emerged, more potent than anticipated. Hidden truths about their family resurrected, binding them to a legacy long suppressed. The air thickened with an unpredictable intensity, leaving them trapped within a web of emotional turmoil. Would Jake dare confront his past? As uncertainty gripped them, Helen clutched Lily's hand, vowing to join her side, ready to face whatever secrets lay ahead, all while the shadows of the past loomed closer, gnawing at their newfound hope. The tension crackled, leaving the question lingering. Would they rise together or shatter into a million pieces? Helen awoke the next morning to an unsettling quiet that enveloped the house. It was as if the air itself was pregnant with unspoken words. Sunlight filtered in through the kitchen window, illuminating the debris of yesterday's emotional upheaval. Half-drunk coffees, crumpled tissues, and an overstuffed notebook filled with Jake's fragmented thoughts and stories. She had taken a brave step, but it was only the beginning. Today was about action. As she brewed coffee, memories of graduating her students flickered through her mind. Those triumphs felt distant now. She longed to unearth that same passion in her son. The idea of mentoring him anchored itself, imbued with urgency. The chasm of grief and disappointment in Jake's eyes had ignited a fire within her. She had spent a lifetime helping students overcome obstacles. Why should her own family be any different? After breakfast, she decided proactive measures were necessary. Helen formulated a plan. She knew that Jake needed more than just questions or mere encouragement. She resolved to offer him a structured outlet for his writing, something to help him reclaim not just his talent, but himself. Their family history was woven with narratives that could transform desolation into unity, and it was high time they waved away the shadows of doubt. Taking a deep breath, Helen approached Jake, who was sitting in front of that familiar laptop, surrounded by silence. "Jake," she started gently, sitting beside him and placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "I've been thinking. What if we set a goal together? Something that helps you reconnect with your writing?" Jake looked at her, the flicker of light in his eyes almost lost beneath layers of fatigue and self-doubt. "Mom, I don't know. Writing feels pointless sometimes, especially with everything else going on. Life's too chaotic for dreams now." Helen sensed the weight of his words but pressed forward, the resolve firm in her chest. "Chaos can be transformed into creativity. Why not write a story based on what you feel? What if we approach this together? You as the author, and me as your first reader." There was a pause, a stillness that felt charged with possibility. Jake's gaze drifted, contemplating the offer. "You really think it would help?" "Yes. You have a gift trapped inside you waiting to be unleashed. Let's carve out time each week to work on it. Just you and me." As Helen spoke, she could see the internal battle within him. He wrestled not just with self-imposed limitations, but also with the fear of failure. Her approach had placed him at the crossroads of vulnerability and potential achievement, one that could redefine their relationship. Jake's shoulders relaxed slightly, the tension easing as he finally nodded. "Okay, let's give it a try. What do we have to lose?" With tentative agreement, they began planning their strategy. Helen felt the flickers of hope ignite once more. The conversation shifted from practicalities to dreams as they transformed their pain into potential. In the midst of their brainstorming, Helen felt another wave of heaviness wash over her. They were chasing dreams, yet the remnants of unresolved familial issues lingered like an unwelcome guest. Secrets remained unearthed. Shadows danced just outside their words. As they pieced together an outline for the story, a truth loomed. The unspoken shadows of their past demanded acknowledgement. Helen sensed the weight of revelation pressing down on her, not quite ready to surface, but insistent. It was clear that the healing they were trying to initiate would require confronting more than just Jake's lost dreams. Could she summon her strength to unveil the family secrets lurking beneath the surface? The time had come to face not only the words on the page, but the narratives that had shaped their hearts. As the room filled with the energy of ideas, Helen could feel the air shift. A silent pact initiated the journey of rediscovery. But as hope surged within her, a tiny voice cautioned her. Would diving deeper into the past bring about healing, or only unravel what they had so painstakingly begun to weave? The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but she felt ready. The time had come to confront their history. The question echoed in her mind. What family secrets would rise to the surface, forcing them to confront truths long buried? The days that followed were laden with a mix of trepidation and anticipation. Each moment spent with Jake felt like walking a tightrope, balancing between hope and the undeniable weight of their unaddressed past. As they settled into a routine of writing sessions, Helen often caught glimpses of Jake's growing engagement, a flicker of joy ignited by the act of creation. She realized that her son was no longer just writing. He was reclaiming a part of himself. Yet, woven into their interactions was a complex undercurrent. Every word they crafted together seemed to resonate with the echoes of history. More than once, she found herself tracing her thoughts back to conversations with her parents, dialogues that were marked by silences surrounding their family's secrets. What had they chosen not to discuss? What shadows lingered in the corners of their lineage? One evening, she sat hunched over the kitchen table as Jake poured his emotions into his laptop. The urgency to unveil the hidden narratives gnawed at her. She could feel time slipping away, each passing moment a reminder of the healing they needed. "Jake," she ventured cautiously, trying to strike a balance between encouraging exploration and weighty revelations. "There are stories that shape us, don't you think? Not just the ones we write, but the ones that come from our families." He glanced up, his fingers pausing over the keys. "Yeah, I guess. But why? Doesn't everyone have secrets?" The defensiveness in his tone cut through her like a knife. "Some secrets can be suffocating. They keep us from growing into who we really are." Helen felt the precipice of their conversation shift, leaning toward an uncharted territory that she sensed they both needed to traverse. Jake's brows furrowed in contemplation, but the walls he had slowly lowered began to rise again. "It's too personal, Mom. Can't we just focus on the story?" But Helen couldn't dismiss her growing conviction. The foundation of their writing project yearned for something more authentic, something rooted in reality. If they were to succeed in transforming pain into creativity, grappling with the shadows was unavoidable. Sometimes living in the dark only feeds the pain. "I want to know your thoughts and feelings, and maybe some of our past can help give depth to the story." Jake shifted uneasily in his chair, his gaze riveted on the blinking cursor on the screen, as if it held the answers they were seeking. "What are you trying to say?" His voice was almost a whisper, laced with confusion. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding. This was what she'd been preparing for. This pivotal moment where she would either break barriers or reinforce them. "I know you're struggling right now, Jake, but I can't help but wonder if there's something deeper. The family dynamics, the pain your father and I went through, things we've never talked about." He recoiled for a moment, anger and fear flaring in his expression. "Why bring that up? It's not—" "It is, Jake. It's a part of you. Of us. If we don't acknowledge it, we risk being silenced by it forever." Helen pressed on, emotions surging forth, desperate for understanding. "We could write about the chaos, the disillusionment, and how to emerge from it. You need to know it's okay to voice your worries." Their eyes locked in shared vulnerability. Jake's shoulders slumped slightly, the tension melting into contemplation. Perhaps he was beginning to see that confronting their family history might not be a burden, but a pathway toward healing. "I guess. I just don't want to dig it all up, Mom. What if it hurts more than it helps?" The potential of discovery hung in the air like a promise yet to be fulfilled. "We won't know until we try. You have a voice, and so do I. Together we can navigate this." As the words left her mouth, an innate resolve settled within her. If she could facilitate his exploration of their past, then perhaps it would mold the narrative they were crafting together, an emotional tapestry interwoven with both hardship and resilience. With renewed purpose, Helen gently nudged the conversation again. "Let's take that first step. What if we started with one family story? Something that felt significant?" In that moment, Jake nodded, albeit hesitantly. As they began to uncover the stories waiting to be told, Helen could feel the air around them shift. This was the beginning of something transformative. But beneath the surface, uncertainty thrummed. Would their revelations bring unity, or fracture the fragile bonds already forming? Little did she know that the very next morning would bring an unexpected letter, something long forgotten that would unravel their past in one fell swoop, igniting the fire of revelation even further. What hidden truths awaited them, and how would they navigate the revelation that lay just around the corner? As dawn broke, Helen's heart raced with the anticipation of what the day might hold. The kernel of their conversation lingered in her mind, dancing with both hope and anxiety. When she gathered the courage to venture to the kitchen, a sense of unease gnawed at her. The letter awaited at the table, stark against the warm glow of the morning sun. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the paper. A scent of aged parchment wafted up, intertwining with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. The handwriting was familiar, yet distant, a bridge to the past. She read the words, her chest tightening as loaded memories flooded back. It was a message from her father, long kept under wraps, revealing a concealed chapter of their family story. The words spoke of sacrifices, untold struggles, and a history entangled with heartache. Each sentence stabbed at her resolve, forcing her to confront the reality of their family facade. The secrets her parents buried were no longer merely whispers in her memory. They were now woven into the fabric of her consciousness, demanding recognition. She glanced at Jake, who sat at the adjoining table, his eyes narrowed in concentration over his laptop, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around them. Would he understand the weight of her discovery? Would it empower him, or instead draw a line of division, more burdensome than enlightening? "Jake," she called softly, her voice quaking with urgency. Almost instinctively, he set his laptop aside, his expression shifting from concentration to concern. "We need to talk." As she handed him the letter, he scanned the unfamiliar handwriting, the words laced with revelations that seemed to pulse with life. "What is this?" he asked, uncertainty threading through his voice. "That's what I'm trying to find out," she replied, feeling the lump in her throat grow. "It's about our family, the things we've never spoken of." The crinkle of the letter in Jake's fingers echoed like a subtle drumbeat, unnerving to both of them. "What does it say?" he pressed, shifting his gaze toward her. "Something about my father's past, some decisions he made that affected not only him but all of us. I never thought I would have to share this with you. It feels daunting. But we can't ignore our truths any longer," Helen said, feeling the urgency of the situation force her to confront her own hesitations about the past. A few heartbeats passed as Jake adjusted his posture, his face settling into a mask of contemplation. "Are you saying this is somehow related to me?" he questioned, his voice low but steady. "Everything is interconnected, Jake. These secrets create shadows over who we are. They can burden us, or they can be a source of understanding." Helen stated, her determination thickening the air between them. "We can begin piecing our lives together through this." His interest piqued, Jake's brows furrowed, and she noticed his inquisitiveness blossom into a hint of excitement mingled with anxiety. "What if there are things in that letter I don't like? What if I don't want to unlock those doors?" Helen felt the weight of her own unresolved emotions clash against his fears. "That's part of the journey," she acknowledged, aware that opening doors to family secrets might also allow light into dark corners. "But the only way to truly understand ourselves is by confronting what has been buried." They sat together, the letter lingering between them like an unspoken promise. Helen imagined their narrative taking shape, each revelation sharpening their vision of the future. The act of revealing their past, once a source of dread, now teetered on the brink of becoming a liberating force. Just then, the stillness punctured by an unexpected phone call made them both jump. The number was unknown, yet something about it compelled her to answer. As she picked up the phone, Helen felt the air change, like the calm before a storm. The voice on the other end brought with it an unexpected twist that would force both of them to confront their entwined destinies head-on. "Is this Helen?" a tentative voice asked. "We need to talk about your father." Helen held the phone to her ear, her heart pounding as anxiety coiled around her thoughts. The voice was unfamiliar, weighted with a seriousness that sent chills down her spine. "Who is this?" she asked, striving to maintain composure despite the storm brewing within her. "I'm a friend of your father's." The voice continued, its tone both hesitant and urgent. "There's something important you need to know. Your father tried to shield you from certain truths, but they're more vital now than ever." Helen's mind raced. Who was this person? A friend? An old associate? The implications felt heavy, as if the phone was tethering her to a past she thought she could keep at arm's length. "What do you mean?" she pressed, her own voice surprisingly steady. "Meet me. Please," the voice insisted, almost pleading. "There are secrets that could change everything you think you know about your father, about your family. I promise it will help you understand." "Where?" Helen's resolve hardened in her throat, a blend of fear and determination igniting her senses. Jake watched her, concern etched in his features, overwhelmed by the tension in their home. "Meet me at the old diner on Maple and 3rd. An hour. Trust me, this is important." With that, the line went dead, leaving Helen in a vortex of unanswered questions. She placed the phone down, glancing at Jake, who had a storm brewing of his own, his eyes flicking with uncertainty. "What was that about?" he asked, his voice firm. "They know something about my father," she admitted, fingers tightening around the edge of the kitchen table. "I have to go." "Go where?" Jake pressed, urgency matching her own. "To meet the person who called. They say it's crucial that I know the truth." A shadow of fear crossed Jake's face. "What if it's a trap? You don't know who that is." She sensed every ounce of his worry, yet her determination eclipsed it. "I can't avoid this. Whatever they have to say may shed light on everything, on our lives, on our choices. I have to know." As she prepared to leave, Helen felt a flicker of an old sense of agency reforming within her. Facing the unknown filled her with trepidation, yet beneath it all lay an undeniable spark of resolve. Long-buried family secrets now framed her path forward. There was empowerment in confrontation, even when it felt perilous. "Wait!" Jake's voice broke through her thoughts, bringing her back to the present. "I'll come with you." "No, Jake. I need this to be my decision. The weight of our history. It's something I must face." The look in Jake's eyes oscillated between understanding and frustration. "But you don't have to do it alone. What you uncover in that diner, you don't know how it could affect both of us." She hesitated. Staying meant seeking comfort, but venturing out alone beckoned the growth she longed for. "This is me confronting my past, Jake. I have to see it through on my own first." Minutes later, Helen drove to the diner, each turn amplifying the stakes. The familiar setting loomed ahead, layered with nostalgia. A place where she and her father had shared countless meals. Innocent conversations now shadowed by years of secrecy. Yet this trip was different. As she stepped inside, the flickering fluorescent lights above buzzed as she scanned the room, finally settling on a lone figure seated in a booth at the far end. The stranger raised their eyes as she approached, and a sense of foreboding washed over her. There, amidst uncanny familiarity, awaited revelations that danced on the brink of discovery. "Are you Helen?" they asked, a hint of recognition already breaking the ice. "Yes," she replied, her pulse quickening. "You said you have important information about my father." The stranger leaned in closer, and as their voice dropped to a whisper, Helen braced herself for the weight of revelations that could shatter the facade she had labored to maintain. This was the moment to either confront the truth or retreat into the darkness of ignorance. "What I'm about to tell you may change everything you've ever known." Helen squinted against the dim lighting of the diner, her heart pounding in sync with the stranger's intense gaze. "What do you mean?" Her voice was steady, but inside, a tumult of emotions whirled, mingling curiosity with apprehension. "I knew your father before he became who he is," the stranger said, pausing to gauge Helen's reaction. "He was different. The man you think you know is only part of the story. There are layers you have yet to uncover." Helen felt the air grow heavy around her, a sense of gravity tethering her to this moment. "What are you saying?" she asked, the words tasting foreign as they slipped out. "Was he in trouble? Did he do something I don't know about?" The stranger shifted uncomfortably in the booth. "I can't tell you everything now. It could put you in danger. But I can share one truth that might change how you see him." Helen leaned in, the enormity of the situation pressing down on her chest. "Your father was involved in something he was forced to hide. A past that shaped him and the decisions he made. Some of it even put your family at risk. He tried to protect you from it all. But in doing so, he kept you in the dark." Helen's pulse quickened at this revelation. Anguish clawed at her insides. The weight of her father's secrets began to tip the balance of everything she thought she knew. The life they led, the choices that defined her, felt tainted by an absence of truth. "Why should I believe you?" she challenged, more out of instinct than doubt. "You could be lying. This could be an elaborate trap." "I understand your skepticism," the stranger replied earnestly. "But consider this. Everything starts to make sense if you look at it through another lens. I can't force you to accept this, but know it's crucial for your future." Helen's thoughts began to spiral. She thought of Jake, of their plans, their shared dreams. Would this revelation alter everything? Could it rip apart the fragile sanctuary she had built around her life? The stranger took a folded piece of paper from their pocket and slid it toward her. "This is the contact information for someone you can trust. They can help you make sense of it all. You deserve to know your father. Not just the man he became, but the man he was, before the secrets consumed him." With trembling fingers, Helen picked up the paper and stared down, the reality of her situation crystallizing. She had been searching for understanding, longing for clarity. But was she prepared to unearth a past that might engulf her present? "Why now?" she asked. "If this was so important, why didn't you come sooner?" The stranger sighed heavily, their expression a mix of resignation and hope. "I waited until I believed you were ready to confront these truths, until I sensed that you wouldn't shy away from the shadows of your family's history." "I don't know if I'll be able to handle it," Helen admitted, vulnerability creeping into her voice. "What if I'm not strong enough?" The stranger's gaze softened. "Strength is not about having all the answers. It's about facing the questions that come your way. You are stronger than you think." In that moment, Helen felt the stirrings of resilience breaking free within her. Confronting her father's shadowy past could offer her a path to understand herself better, to redefine the narrative of her own life. "Thank you for coming forward," she finally said, the resolve in her voice carving a determined space in her mind. As she stood up to leave, she clutched the piece of paper tightly. But just as she turned to walk away, a final thought clawed its way out. "Will you still be here if I need more answers?" The stranger nodded, a flicker of hope sparking between them. "I'll be waiting." Helen stepped outside, feeling the weight of the unknown pressing against her chest. She was at the edge of a chasm, the decisions before her marked by uncertainty. However, a flicker of empowerment ignited within her. She would take this step, confront the truths that lay ahead. As she pulled out of the diner parking lot, the city lights blurred past like fleeting memories, each one holding fragments of a past she was now determined to uncover. But still, a question loomed over her. Was she ready to confront the extent of what her father buried? The answer lingered in the air, heavy and unanswered as she drove into the night, weaving through the growing complexity of her lineage. Helen's heart raced, not just from the revelations she'd encountered, but from the realization that this was only the beginning. What lay ahead might be far more daunting than she ever anticipated. She took a deep breath as the streets whizzed by, knowing she would soon have to make a decision. How far would she go to discover the truth? Would it consume or liberate her? Just then, her phone buzzed insistently. A message from Jake. "Are you okay? Talk to me." She felt the urge to wait, to contemplate before sharing the burden of newfound truths. But in that moment, a tougher decision dawned on her. Perhaps it was time for both her and Jake to face the shadows. Together, Helen parked her car a few blocks away from Jake's apartment, the distant hum of the city around her. She tried to steady her breathing, gathering her thoughts, but the weight of the stranger's words pressed heavily on her mind. Now, she wasn't just struggling with her father's past. She had to consider how to confide in Jake, a partner, a confidant, someone who too might be affected by the cascade of revelations that awaited. As she approached the door, doubts gnawed at her resolve. What if Jake couldn't handle it? What if he resented her for keeping her family's secrets? This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about trust, shared burdens, and the potential fracture of their dreams. Would he see this truth as a way to relate to her, or would it push him away? She steadied herself, recalling the stranger's words about strength. Tossing aside her hesitation, Helen knocked. "Hey, you made it!" Jake's voice bubbled with warmth. The door swung open, revealing a smile that grounded her amidst turmoil. As he drew her inside, the familiar scent of his cologne mixed with the aroma of cooking food enveloped her, offering a momentary comfort. "I was worried about you." He searched her face for answers, concern knitting his brow. Helen's heart raced as she sat down at the small table where Jake had set out a simple but comforting dinner. Tacos, their favorite. The normalcy of it felt surreal, juxtaposed against the emotional chaos swirling within her. "I've been processing some things," she started, struggling to find the right words. The piece of paper from the stranger was clenched in her fist under the table, reminding her of the uncertainty she was about to unleash. Jake leaned closer, his demeanor shifting as he sensed her struggle. "What's going on? You can tell me anything." I met someone earlier," she stammered, unsure of how to begin. "Someone who knew my dad before he became him." She swallowed hard, her voice wavering. He had secrets, really big ones. Things that might change how I see my whole life. And maybe even how you see it too. Raising an eyebrow, Jake's curiosity grew. Secrets? What kind of secrets? Helen exhaled, the space between them feeling charged with potential energy. He said my father was involved in something dangerous. Something he tried to hide from me to protect me. I don't know all the details yet, but I think it's going to affect everything. Jake's expression morphed from confusion to understanding, his features softening. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? I didn't know how to start," she admitted, the tremor in her voice betraying her anxiety. "And honestly, I'm scared of what it all means. I don't want to lose what we have over this." "Hey!" Jake placed his hand over hers, grounding her. "You're not going to lose me, but we need to face these things together, whatever they are." Helen looked into his eyes, grappling with the overwhelming urge to share the stranger's insights and the truths that lay beneath the surface. "This could change everything, Jake. I don't know if I'm ready to find out what this really means." His grip tightened reassuringly. "You don't have to go through this alone. We can figure it out together, but you've got to trust me." A flicker of hope ignited in Helen's chest. For the first time, she felt less like she was caught in a storm, and more like she had someone standing at her side, ready to weather it with her. Still, the gravity of her father's past lingered ominously. She needed to contact the person from the diner. They could provide clarity, or further shatter the fragile semblance of normalcy she was just beginning to rebuild. As dinner progressed, Helen wrestled silently between the urge to divulge more and fear of overwhelming Jake. She felt a tempest of emotions crash within her, knowing the real battle was just beginning. What were the depths of this truth that had remained hidden? When he finished eating, Jake leaned back, observing her thoughtfully. "Are you ready to find out who your father really was?" In this moment, clarity washed over her. Taking a deep breath, Helen nodded, knowing she had to embrace the unknown. It was time to confront the past, not just for her own sake, but for the future they envisioned together. But something was nagging at her, urging her to act. Before time slipped through her fingers, she needed to reach out to the contact from the diner. "Is it okay if I make a call?" she asked, her voice echoing her determination. "Of course. I'll be right here." As she stepped away to make the call, a quiet resolve settled within her. The time had come to face the shadows, not just for her father, but for herself and what lay ahead. As the phone rang, her mind raced with questions. What other secrets were waiting to be uncovered? What truths about herself had she yet to discover? The uncertainty clung to her, and she felt the beginnings of a larger conflict looming on the horizon. It was time to confront not just the past, but the unknown future that awaited her. Would their love and strength withstand the revelations that lay in wait? The phone rang with an urgency that mirrored the pounding in Helen's chest. Each beep felt like a countdown to a revelation that could shake the very foundation of her existence. She glanced back at Jake, who was sitting at the table, patiently watching her, a reassuring presence amidst her turmoil. The trust in his eyes fueled her determination. "Come on, pick up," she whispered to herself, the tension coiling tighter within her. As she clutched the phone, she felt a surge of adrenaline surge through her. This was her choice, her moment to take control of the narrative that had long dictated her life. The call connected, and a terse voice answered. "Did you find out what you wanted?" The stranger's tone was neither comforting nor harsh, just a flat line of expectation. "I'm ready to hear what you have to say." Helen managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "Your father's life wasn't what he led you to believe. There were layers of darkness that he lived in," he said, his words laced with an unsettling certainty. Helen's heart raced. This was it. She was stepping into the abyss of her father's hidden world. "Tell me everything," she pressed, tilting her chin up, trying to internalize the strength Jake had instilled in her. The stranger coughed lightly, contemplating his words. "He was mixed up with a lot of dangerous people, Helen. Things that could have put you in harm's way if you had known. That's why he kept it all from you." Helen could barely breathe. Her mind was a cyclone of emotions. She had always perceived her father as a complicated yet ordinary man, battling his demons quietly. But this was a terrifying admission, one that toyed with the very essence of her childhood. "How do you know all this?" she demanded, struggling to keep her voice even. "I was part of that world, and your father was trying to disentangle himself from it. But the past is not so easily put to rest," he replied, each word a stone adding to her overwhelming burden. Helen's thoughts whirled as she processed the implications. How could she have been so blind to the shadow looming over her family? It wasn't just her father's past that needed to be reckoned with. It was the legacy of lies that came with it. If she was ever going to move forward with Jake, she needed to have a clearer understanding of how her father's choices shaped her own identity. "I need more than this," she said, her voice steadier now. What else should I know? What's the truth? There was a long pause on the line, and Helen felt the weight of silence push against her. She pictured every moment of warmth her father had given her, juxtaposed against this chilling revelation. Could the man she loved and idolized also be a man capable of endangering those closest to him? I'll send you everything I have. Documents, names, the works. But you need to understand this comes with risks. People don't just walk away easily from that life, he said, a hint of warning creeping into his tone. Risks? Fear sliced through her. Just as she had started to regain some sense of control, shadows of danger snarled in the background, ready to pounce. What kind of risks? Those who are involved won't appreciate you poking around, he said simply, and Helen understood the underlying threat. Her pursuit of truth was now entwined with potential danger. The call ended, leaving her heart racing and her mind tangled in knots. Helen stared blankly at the wall, her thoughts a stormy sea, contemplating the swirling chaos of revelations. Are you okay? Jake's voice broke through her haze, pulling her back from the edge of despair. She turned to him, processing the weight of the moment. Not really. It's worse than I thought, she admitted, feeling the lines of fear etch deeper into her. This is so much bigger than I imagined. What did he say? Jake leaned forward, his expression a mix of concern and curiosity. Helen hesitated, grappling with the enormity of her father's concealed narrative and the implications for their future. He was part of something dangerous. I think it could endanger us too. Jake's brow furrowed, knowing that they had crossed a threshold into something dark and uncertain. The stakes were rising and they stood on a precipice. Whatever it is, we can face this together. His voice was firm, yet there was an undercurrent of fear that mirrored her own. In her gut, Helen felt the weight of secrets pressing down like a heavy fog. Yet, amid her anxiety, she discovered a flicker of resilience igniting within her. As daunting as the truth seemed, it was time to confront not only her father's past, but what that past meant for her future and the relationship she had with Jake. She took a deep breath, determination rallying. We need to dig deeper. I want to know everything about my father, even if the truth hurts. As they faced each other, the gravity of their shared decision hung thick in the air. Together they emboldened each other, preparing to traverse the darkness head first. Yet Helen couldn't shake the feeling that with every step they took closer to the truth, they were also inviting danger into their lives. A flickering dread whispered that revealing one secret would likely unveil many more. What other dangers lurked in her father's past? How far would they have to go to unearth the truth? And at what cost? The future loomed before her like a shadow, enticing yet threatening. And as she forged ahead, there was no turning back. Helen's resolve hardened as anticipation coiled tightly in her chest. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in as she contemplated the implications of her father's hidden life. Jake sat silently, sensing the whirlwind of thoughts raging in her mind. She needed clarity, but the pressing fear knotted her stomach, threatening to spill over. Let's start with the documents, Helen urged, urgency slipping into her voice. We need to know what we're dealing with. Each word became a stepping stone, guiding them deeper into a dark labyrinth of uncertainty. As if responding to her determination, Jake reached for his laptop, the gentle glow illuminating his face. I can start searching for any public records, old news articles, anything that might give us some background, he suggested, his tone a mixture of caution and support. Yes, and try local archives. Anything to help us piece together who he was, and what he was running from, she replied, her pulse quickening with every new idea. Yet a question gnawed at the edges of her focus. Why had her father felt compelled to shield her from this part of himself? Had he loved her too fiercely, believing ignorance was protection? Emotional turmoil clouded her thoughts, masked by a tight lid of professional instinct, born from years as a journalist. Hours dragged on as they pored over screen after screen of information, cataloging their findings like detectives chasing shadows. Helen felt herself slipping into a rhythm, her mind shifting gears into investigative mode. Each new piece of evidence transformed her fear into fuel. Suddenly a name flashed on Jake's screen. Carl Meadows. It sprang forth from a police report detailing an unsolved case tied to a notorious crime ring. What does this mean? Her instinct screamed at her. It felt so intensely personal. Wait, look here, Jake said, voice tinged with excitement. It mentions your father being a witness who was supposed to testify. But it never happened. Helen's heart sank. If her father had been in a position to expose criminals, it meant stakes were much higher than she initially thought. The realization that he had chosen silence felt like a betrayal, as if layers of warmth she'd associated with him suddenly turned cold. "Why didn't he tell me?" she murmured, her tone scarcely above a whisper. The implications throbbed in the air, her connection to her father's silence merging with guilt. "Maybe he thought he was protecting you," Jake offered, resting a hand on her shoulder. But that choice had consequences we're still uncovering. Consequences. The word hung in the air, heavy with gravity. She wasn't merely seeking the truth. She had unwittingly stumbled into a web of deceit that could ensnare them both. As they continued their search, Helen resisted a flicker of doubt about her decisions. The investigation was taking a toll on her psyche. Each revelation pulled back the curtain slightly, yet every glimpse left her feeling more isolated within her own family narrative. Could she really reconcile the man she loved with this darker and more dangerous figure? By midnight, they had amassed a collection of documents, each more unsettling than the last. Newspaper clippings, a faded photograph of her father standing alongside a shadowy figure with cold eyes. These artifacts appeared like ghosts from the past, haunting her newfound reality. "Shall we take a break?" Jake asked gently, assessing the swelling tension. "No, we need to keep going," Helen insisted, her voice firm but layered with fatigue. "I can't rest until I understand his choices. It's a personal journey I have to complete, even if it leads us into danger." With renewed determination, she leaned closer to the screen, diving deeper into the abyss. But with every revelation, an inkling of dread morphed into certainty. They were beckoning a confrontation with the ghosts of her father's past. This was the path to the truth she craved, but it came with immeasurable risks. "Do you think anyone else knows about this?" she asked, suddenly aware of eyes that may have been watching from the shadows. "I don't know," Jake said gravely. "But we need to be ready. If he had enemies, then we may be in their sights now." As the weight of their investigation crashed down around her, Helen's instincts honed in on the present danger. The path illuminated before her was fraught with uncertainty, but it was one she had to take. With Jake by her side, she steeled herself for the truths yet to be unearthed, and just as she thought she could grasp the edges of clarity, a jarring thought struck her. What if the very answers she sought were being kept in silence by those who lurked dangerously close? The door creaked in the darkness outside, and her heart raced, an unsettling echo of her father's hidden life reverberating into her reality. Who was coming for them now? Helen jolted upright from the depths of her inner turmoil when she heard the faint creaking at the door. Her heart raced not only from fear, but from the weight of responsibility. Alarm spread through her as she turned to Jake, whose brow was furrowed, each detail on his face echoing the tension swirling between them. "What was that?" he asked, his voice low but urgent. "I don't know," Helen whispered, straining her ears to catch any further sound. An unshakable realization gripped her. They were unraveling a story far larger than either had anticipated, and the shadows they were pursuing might soon consume them. With a surge of adrenaline, Jake moved instinctively toward the window, peering outside into the dim light. "I didn't see anyone," he said after a moment. "But that doesn't mean we're safe." "No, it doesn't," Helen replied, her voice steadying, though inside she was a whirlwind. "If what we've uncovered about my father is true, then we need to be cautious." As shadows deepened around them, Helen felt a resolve forming. The crisis was forcing her to confront not just the past, but also her instincts to protect those she loved. "We need to get everything together. Whatever danger or discovery lies ahead, we're in this together." Jake nodded, understanding washing over him, and together they began to organize the mound of papers cluttering the table. Their investigation laid bare like a battle plan. With each document, Helen embraced a growing sense of agency, the shadows of her father's past illuminating the corners of her life she had left untouched for far too long. By dawn, the weight of exhaustion lay upon them, but Helen's conviction had solidified. She could no longer linger in ignorance. She was determined to reconnect with her father's truth. Every scrap of information they gathered was a stepping stone, guiding her toward clarity and empowerment. As they pressed through the night, uncovering the sinister layers of her family's history, she transitioned from a passive daughter to an active seeker of truth. "We need to formulate a plan," Helen said, her voice carrying the gravity of their situation. "If there are individuals still lurking in the shadows, we need to be prepared to face them." Jake met her gaze squarely, a firm resolve etched into his features. "You're right. This is about more than just your past. It's about our future, too." It became clear to both of them that Helen's exploration of her father's life was not just a search for hidden truths. It was a pivotal moment for claiming her own identity. Following their strategy meeting, they decided to reach out to the individual from the diner once more, hoping to gather more intel and possibly find a safe way through the labyrinthine complexities that surrounded them. When the call connected, Helen felt a surge of empowerment with every passing second, a direct line back to the source of all her confusion. "I'd like to meet again," she stated, her tone confident. "I need more information." The voice on the line was affirming, nudging her forward. "Good. I'll arrange a meeting, somewhere safe." Hanging up, a twilight of hope caught her gaze as Jake watched her, admiration glistening in his eyes. "You've transformed. You're no longer just facing the past. You're taking control of it." "Yes, it feels liberating," she replied, a genuine smile breaking through her earlier tension. "The weight of the unknown is still heavy, but I'm done hiding. If my father's secrets can teach me something, then I'm prepared to learn, even if it hurts." The day loomed before them, filled with uncertainty, but also purpose. Helen's resolve only strengthened with her new role as a seeker. She felt the wind of change stirring, a promise of reclaiming her narrative, not just for herself, but also to ensure Jake's path alongside hers. And as they prepared to meet their contact, Helen reflected on how far she'd come. She was no longer the helpless grandmother or a passive daughter. She was a woman who had embraced her identity and was willing to brave any darkness to shine light on her family's hidden legacies. The meeting unfolded in a small cafe, hushed and intimate. There, the stranger unveiled the remaining pieces of her father's past, hard truths intertwined with the fabric of deception. Each revelation felt like a hammer, striking the foundation of her understanding, yet brought a clear picture of the man she thought she knew. As they left, Helen's heart soared with clarity and renewed strength. What had once felt daunting now seemed conquerable. She had bridged the gap between expectations and reality, embracing both her father's flaws and the legacy she wished to carve. Helen realized then that this endeavor had transformed more than just her understanding of her past. It was a testament to her tenacity, a deeply personal quest that fortified her bond with Jake. Together, they had confronted shadows, vowed to carry forward only the light of truth, and emerged, transformed. In the dawning light, she knew this was just one step in a long journey ahead. The road would be fraught with challenges, but for the first time, she stood grounded in her identity, ready to confront whatever future awaited. As she walked alongside Jake, a surge of gratitude enveloped her. Together they'd taken back what had been shrouded in darkness, and now they stood ready to build a brighter path forward. This was more than closure. It was a rebirth, a declaration of hope and resilience. And with that, Helen felt a powerful sense of fulfillment rise within her, knowing they would emerge not just as survivors, but as enlightened harbingers of their family's legacy. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It helps more than you know. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending below. Your thoughts matter. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support and uplift others through stories of personal overcoming. Don't wait even one more second to share.